there is nothing good about this movie. The television show had a format and was fun. This movie is slow and boring and has no likable characters.
If you're comparing, if your litmus test for what's great is the TV show version, man, woof.
Oh,
From
people,
like, what, 20, 30 years prior?
Yeah, the 60s. People were big mad. You may not remember, but people were big mad about this in 1996.
I mean, I definitely would agree.
Yeah. So that is a 1-star review from IMDb. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. We are Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Steven, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Ryan.
What's up?
What's up? What is it, early 2000s?
Wow.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what was funny in 96, but I couldn't come up with
Eat my shorts.
I think that was before that.
Probably.
That was like 89.
All that? I don't know.
This is all.
Okay, calm down. That's not what we're talking about. We are kicking off our Mission Rewatchable series. That's right. We're doing all of the Mission Impossible movies leading up to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Say that 5 times
Appendix
fast.
5, version 7.
See, yeah. So we are kicking this off with the very first Mission Impossible from 1996. And this is going to be a little different format from our standard shows.
If you have listened to our 007 double headers, it's going to be similar to that. It's just going to be roundtable format.
This is going to be Mission Impossible single headers.
Yep. Spoilers all the time.
They
Prepare
do
for
abound.
it.
Yeah,
They are intended.
They are intended as of now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So kick it off with maybe a little facts here about the original, and I say original somewhat tongue in cheek.
The original film.
The original
first movie,
The first movie for Mission Impossible. So this is directed by Brian De Palma, who you may know from The Untouchables or Carlito's Way or Bonfire of the Vanities.
I only know one of those names.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you I've seen all those movies,
I know
but
The
I knew the
Untouchables.
names.
You don't know Carlito's Way?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised, actually.
Yeah.
Music is by Danny Elfman.
Oh, yeah. I know that name.
An incredibly prolific composer.
Yeah.
His name has come up on this podcast a lot.
Well, and he does really good work.
He does, yeah.
So had you guys ever seen the TV series before you saw this movie?
I watched one episode.
I have seen
that my dad showed me.
I've seen a fair chunk of it because of my parents.
I remember watching a bunch of reruns of it before. And like when I went to the theater to see this, I remember thinking about the score specifically of like, oh, wow, they punched this up in a good way. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think I was actually allowed to go see this in the theaters. I think I caught it when it hit VHS. Because I don't know if my parents went to go see it. But I know my dad was a big fan of Mission Impossible.
I feel like I saw it in theaters with my parents, and my parents were big mad about the movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We'll get into this. So it was made on an $80 million budget.
That is massive.
For
1996.
So Cruise wanted this to be a big, over-the-top
The thing is, though, this
action
movie was like, I remember this movie was the one that they would play at the front of like when you would rent something from Blockbuster and it'd have that trailer for like, action movies.
Yeah.
Surround sound. It would show the train scene and like everything from this movie. Because this movie at the time was like crazy in terms of the action.
It's him coming down from the ceiling, right? That's the iconic,
That's another shot,
the trapeze scene. Only made 100.
Trapeze.
It's
not a trapeze.
It is kind of.
Trapeze when you walk across the thing, isn't it?
No.
That's the swinging?
Yeah, that's the swinging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. It's just not swinging. Anyways, did not do super great at the box office based on what I found. 181 million.
Probably because people were big mad.
They were big mad, let me tell you.
I remember everybody being hype about this movie. I remember all my friends loved it. My mom took me to see it. She liked it.
Well, I think because you were young enough to where you had no connection to the original.
That's the big key here.
Yeah.
So let me hit you with a synopsis. So based on the hit television series, Jim Phelps, along with his team, is sent to Prague for a mission to prevent the theft of classified material. When something goes horribly wrong, members of the team are cut off from the agency and must find the mole in their midst on their own.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right.
Yeah.
So I'll kick us off with just maybe a little discussion about why people are so angry, right?
Yeah.
So Jim Phelps is the only character from the TV series to make it to the first movie.
And he was the main character in the original series.
And he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy. And he was like the dad of the team.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was the one that like kept everything together and going and like.
So this is the darker, grittier Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
It really is.
They took the character and they flipped it around. So of course, again, everyone's mad. But like
people did not like to be subverted back in the 90s.
Apparently not. Not 96. They weren't ready.
They tried to bring in the original actors from the show. And when they started to see the script and stuff, they all refused.
I could see why.
Yeah, because the original plan was the same as the movie. They were going to kill them all off in the first act.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they've all, like, if you go through and look, they all spoke out about it. They actually, Paramount reached out, like an executive at Paramount reached out to, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Rena Badii.
Try it one more time.
Rena Badii.
It was better the first time. Keep
Badii. Okay, I don't know. So he's responsible for directing the most episodes of any one person of the show.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So he was invited by the head of Paramount to be present on the set for consulting. The first day he got there, the director approached him and told him the movie was going to be nothing like the TV show and that his presence would just make them both uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
Got him right off the top.
Rena thanked him for his honesty and just left.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, like, props.
So it's kind of crazy given kind of how it started to think about how far this franchise has gone.
So I think that this film franchise, Mission Impossible, did not get good until the third one.
So the first two, and obviously we're going to cover those.
Yeah,
we're going to cover further along the line, but the first two are really feeling their way. The first one, it really wanted to be
a
the
spy
film.
thriller. Yeah.
And then the second one was just a John Woo film.
Yeah, just an action film.
And they turned it all the way to the action side, and then after that, they kind of found their footing of the mix of spy and action.
And more like character drama.
Yeah. So another fun fact on this: this is the only Mission Impossible film where Cruise does not fire a gun.
Yeah, that's about right.
There are no shootouts in this film.
Also correct.
Yeah. It's the only one.
At this point in time in Hollywood, he refused to shoot guns.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I think the Mission Impossible, the second one, was the first time that he did it. Or maybe it was like another film, but it was like this was definitely one of the times where he was like, no guns.
John Woo's like, some of these doves are going to be shooting guns. You're shooting a gun. Okay, guy? Come on.
Literally a symbol of peace.
Then we're going to Kimbo on a motorcycle.
Yeah, like, you're going to shoot guns, Tom, okay?
Pay him enough. He'll do anything, right?
Right, yeah. So that's it. I didn't think about that when I was watching. I didn't like pay attention, but yeah,
he holds a gun.
Yeah, he loads a gun.
Yeah,
and it's very much so, you know, that tense spy drama heist feel to it.
Yeah,
without stepping into kind of like the Bourne world or, you know, Daniel Craig Bond of we're here to punch people out and fight and stab and whatnot.
So the fun part is about this film, he really doesn't do a whole lot, like at all. He basically like blows up two things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs around.
Yeah, but those two things he blows up.
Oh, no.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Well, the first one, yes. Maybe not the second one.
The second one's
pretty cool.
I don't
blew up a
there.
helicopter.
Disagree.
Agree to disagree.
It's dumb.
Well, okay, the sequence is pretty dumb.
It's really dumb.
I'm not going to pretend otherwise.
So I like this movie. I don't love this movie, but I think this movie definitely has a inescapable 90s feel to it.
A
bit, yeah.
Everything that is, to me, both glorious and terrible at the same time. And like
their depiction of the internet is phenomenal.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad.
It's not as buck wild as GoldenEye, where they're sending spikes and again, like those characters drawn on the end of a pier from a.
But everything's using like this like god awful gooey.
Ugh. Yeah, like the design. I don't know if that was because to mock it up, they had to create everything anyway. So they were just like, this is probably what internet would look like.
Apple had a bunch of money in this movie because they were trying to promote their product. Everything is an Apple product on these computers.
Okay.
Which is also just weird to think about nowadays. Like, you're hacking on Apple? What?
Yeah.
This is before. Well, actually, never mind. They're all good people, so it's fine.
Yeah. But none of the computers they used were really like functioning.
Right, yeah.
So everything that's done on the screen is basically just made up.
It's an animation that they just play on
they
the
just
screen.
put on the screen.
You can actually see when he's asleep in the safe house, as the camera turns, the laptop, there's no screen. There's just black.
But yeah, I like a lot of the action in this movie from more of a nostalgic standpoint. I remember seeing this in the theater and enjoying it. There's definitely some scenes that make no sense, like a helicopter
in a tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
And also, like, there's multiple times where, like, the camera pans and you're like, the blades would be slapping the ceiling. And they're just not,
Yeah.
So, again, I feel like this movie is a perfect example of, like, that mid-90s inflection point where, like, we have enough CG to do stuff, but we don't really know what we should be doing.
We don't have the good sense to use it wisely.
And so I remember seeing the special effects for the first time and being impressed by a lot of it. That now, like, you're like, oh, that train looks so fake. At the time, it was like, oh, wow, we're actually finally able to do this kind of stuff with computers. That, again, I think there's just, on paper, some of this stuff probably sounded great. And then in practice, and this is not an insult to any of the people that worked on the VFX teams on this movie. Because they did do
for the time, they did great.
Yeah. It's just there's some of the practicality of it. But in terms of like the acting and like the characters they get together, I do like Jean Reno's character. I love him. I love him in any movie though. I like John Voight and like that idea of the main dude that like going into it you thought was going to be the good guy if you know the series is the bad guy. And then you can catch on to that pretty obviously.
Pretty quickly.
But like I could see some people not catching on to it.
Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise, this is like before I think Tom Cruise hit his full like charisma stride of
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? This is still Tom Cruise coming out. He had like 80s with like, Top Gun and all that
Risky
stuff.
Business, Days of Thunder.
And then like the 90s were different.
Legend.
Yeah.
Well,
Color of Money, a lot of stuff.
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, so this was a interesting, I guess, career point for him.
It was.
It was also interesting too in that this was the first film where he's credited as a producer.
Yes, because this was a Cruise production.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He actually declined his fee, his $20 million fee, in order to take a percentage of the profits.
Yeah,
which I'm pretty sure, just based on the box office, probably didn't work out for him.
Probably not.
But it certainly helps the upfront costs of production.
So what did you guys think of the movie overall?
So when I was in college, at design school.
Ooh, at design
when
school.
I was at design school.
I wasn't even going to say it like that, but you did it for me. I appreciate it.
Okay, I do want to put a correction in there, so I do want to throw this down. I did pull. I had this feeling. I pulled North America's numbers, not worldwide.
Not global.
Right. So 181 is North America.
Yeah.
The global box office was 457.
Oh, okay.
It did really good then.
That's actually really good.
Very respectable, yeah.
Okay, I was like, how did they get cleared for a sequel?
Yeah, I kept looking at this like, they spent a lot.
We're going to put some guns in this franchise.
Love it. Greenlit. All right.
But yeah,
back at design school.
Design school. So whenever we're learning Photoshop for the first time,
he was designing toasters. Don't let him fool you.
They basically tell us, they're like, all right, there are layer styles, the drop shadows, outer glows, all this other kind of stuff, all these effects that you can do, that Photoshop can do. We're going to do a whole project where that's the only thing you use. So you get it out of your system.
And you never
know what
touch it again.
Not to do.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the big things that I feel happens with a lot of these earlier kind of action films from the 90s where they have these computer graphics, but they don't really know what to do with them yet.
I thought you were going to say they put drop shadow and all the effects on all the text.
Well, even the graphic UIs and everything like that, it's very poor design, but at the time they just didn't know any better. And you have to make, I'm not going to even say they're mistakes because they're not. Because you have to go through this iteration process for the visual design of these
everything to start to make sense.
To CGI to action scenes, blue screening, everything. You have to go through those iteration processes to get to the stuff that we have now.
Well, it's like it's too new to know if it's bad or good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the jury's still out. So like you do this effect like we've never been able to do that on text before. I kind of like it, and then 10 years later, that was a terrible decision.
Why did we do this?
Yeah.
And you look back and you're like, ooh, that's really cringe. But that's just part of the process.
Sure.
And from that perspective, when I'm watching this film, I see a lot of the DNA that basically moved this franchise into a franchise that I genuinely love.
Yeah.
But the film itself, to me, is just, it's not very entertaining. There are some entertaining moments in it, like the scene in the diner with the aquarium and stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a really good scene.
Then you have, I love I mean, the most iconic scene in the whole film, which I feel that they basically wrote the film around that scene.
It feels like it. What you're talking about when they break into
when they break into CIA
and the hang.
And he catches his sweat and like all this other kind of stuff. That scene is just phenomenal.
That
like,
is a really good scene.
One of the most iconic scenes.
The tension in that scene is
it's great
because they do a good job while we're on the scene, right? Of like setting up the stakes, and then when things start to go wrong, you understand fully
how
it could break.
But
and
I mean, it's basically a heist, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I will throw in a little trivia there. So the bit where he stops just an inch or two above the floor and he has to like lay horizontal, he's trying to balance. So they redid that take a bunch of times because every time that he would get to that point, he kept hitting his head on the floor.
Oh, gosh.
Because as it turns out, you can't balance like that very well. So he had to load his shoes with coins.
Yeah, I was going to say they had to counterweight.
Yeah, to help counterweight him. But he's still, he's flailing his arms there to stay up.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine Tom Cruise like, okay, do it again.
Blam!
So one of the things that I really like about that scene is, because if you go and watch like other films around this time period, so you have like Entrapment with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery.
That's a great film.
The great film, but they have a lot of these kind of like mechanical things to hold them up and to like suspend them and stuff. Where this is literally just the dude just holding him up on a pulley.
He's got
pulley.
a pulley. It's got a little bit of mechanical, but not much.
But it's
not like a winch or
anything. It's not a mechanical winch.
So whenever you're just every time they cut to him and it's
he's
just
sweating.
And the stupid rat comes down the
air duct, which those air ducts are one immaculate and two massive,
massive, perfect air duct.
It's your classic, your 80s, 90s
it's
stereotype.
The CIA though.
It is.
You got Stanley Steamer coming every weekend to clean them out.
With classified clearance to get in there, right?
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, those two scenes, like the scene at the diner and then this one, those are like iconic scenes that I genuinely love to watch. But getting to those points, you feel like you're just watching a 90s film. And
there's definitely some slow parts.
It is tough.
I do like the opening heist.
Yeah,
is that what you're gonna say?
The opening bit with the embassy is pretty good. And I like the way they have where she sprays the guy with a marker.
And then
they have only the glasses, so it makes them stand out in the crowd. Like those kinds of elements were actually really great. And because felt like real spy work.
That scene does a good job of like they set up the plan a little bit, but you don't fully know it. And then when you get there, you see all the people are in place, and you slowly start to learn. Oh, so she's using the glasses to see stuff. She's marking him. He's playing the part of the senator. He's doing that. So you kind of slowly start to click and understand the plan. And then when it starts to unravel, it's like that third, it's like a little story within itself of like there's the setup, then the discovery of what they're all doing, and then like when it breaks bad.
So they do a lot of POV shots in this film.
Yeah, those don't age well.
Those do not work very well. POV is very, I think, hard to pull off properly.
Yeah.
And this just feels really weird a lot of times.
It does.
Yeah, well,
and there's a lot of weird Dutch angles.
They stick with the POV. There's one shot that's like the POV of Cruise, and they stick with it for a long time.
Like a little too long.
Yeah, it's like y'all can lay off this a little bit.
Is it when he's getting in the car? Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that dude that might have been one of the bad guys from Die Hard. I can't. A blonde European
blonde
guy.
Hair, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he probably wasn't. But like,
it's not. It's not him.
Right. I know.
But it's just the most generic evil henchman bad guy.
Yeah. It's a classic.
Like the guy from Die Hard. I got just the guy.
I did like seeing. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but Henry Czerny.
Try it again.
Czerny.
I liked it the second time.
Yeah. So he plays Kittredge.
Oh, Kittredge is great.
Well,
he's actually in a bunch of the other films too.
Well,
Kittredge is I
was gonna say he's Ritter in Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah.
So he apparently he's kind of typecast into this like intel role.
I'm the jerky bureaucrat.
Yeah, but he's good at it. I mean, he handles it well.
Yeah,
and that's about because like you have John Voight's character, right, Jim. You have Ethan Hunt with Tom Cruise, Claire to some extent, and then Kittredge.
Yeah.
Because basically everyone you're introduced to at the start
I like Ving
dies.
Rhames' character though. Like what's his name? Wallace.
Wallace?
Luther?
No.
Luther.
Luther?
No. I was
Wrong
like,
movie.
Wallace.
I'm going to say it
what's his
again.
name?
Luther?
Luther, yes.
Well, he's a persistent character.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
in every single
Every one of
other,
them,
every
yeah.
other film, yeah.
But it's just interesting, right? Because we kind of get introduced to all these characters, and then we immediately kill a whole bunch of them.
Well, especially Emilio Estevez, whenever you're watching it, and you're just like, oh, okay, cool. I can get with, oh, he's dead.
Quack.
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 As he's going up the elevator. Quack, Mr. Duxford, quack.
Oh no. Also, I remember the first time I saw this movie, and every subsequent viewing since, when he's going up the elevator, I'm like, just lay down.
Yeah, lay flat.
Get flat. He's like, he's like raising his head up towards it. I'm
Straight
like,
into.
dude, lay it all the way down. I would be so scrunched up on the top of this elevator.
Fetal position, just like,
Yeah.
please don't.
Yeah, he's like,
Well,
he's
I
like
mean,
watching
you
it.
had the spikes that pop down.
Sure.
Yeah, which,
Because
I
that's
mean,
a standard feature on most elevator
Oh,
shafts.
You know how all elevators have those giant murder spikes that keep them from going all the way to the top? No, I don't.
well, now you do.
I'm never going to the top floor ever again. Holy cow.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the film is fun for the most part. Like it has good moments in it.
I enjoy it, but it's definitely not like something I could put on anytime and watch.
It's just very, it feels longer than it actually is.
It really
It's not a long
does.
It
film.
comes in under 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not a really long film. Steven, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I actually enjoy it more than I remembered.
Yeah.
Mostly because we have a couple of really good heist-esque sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do a lot of good things. Like again, this one goes really hard on the spy work. And Tom Cruise came into this wanting to do a movie with a lot of gadgets. He kind of wanted to be like a James Bond.
Yeah.
And they went hard on that. And it's pretty fun. honestly.
The plastic explosive gum is really cool.
Oh, yeah. Red light, green light.
Yeah, that's a
Red light,
Green light.
Yeah.
Well, and like, again, this was kind of, I don't know if this was the start, but he does do basically all his stunts for this film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's where it began, but specifically for the diner scene with all the water, right? They did that on a soundstage. It's 16 tons of water.
I feel so bad. I know there were no fish harmed in this,
Right.
but I feel bad for the fish.
So they did test shots of this with a stuntman because they didn't want to put Cruise under 16 tons of water. 'Cause
Sure.
What if he drowns? And they're like, it just doesn't work. And Cruise, you just got to get in there. So he just did it, right?
Well, he's like, "Ooh, I kind of like.
I kind of liked it.
Well, because
I
that
felt-
shot,
I
like,
like
there's
that.
no way to
I-
fake that.
I
I see his
know,
face so
yeah,
easily.
like, I can feel
You can probably
again.
fake it now.
Tom
like,
Cruise, I feel alive for the first time.
with deep fake technology, you could probably do it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in '96, they were like,
What's deep
Just
fake?
get in there. Well, speaking of deepfake, this is also the only Mission Impossible film where the iconic mask reveals
Yeah,
is all practical.
really.
There's no.
There were a couple shots in there that definitely felt like there was like some CGI assist in there whenever he's
There-
peeling it off.
I don't.
I
don't
think
know.
what you're seeing is they're cutting from a couple of different
Maybe-
takes.
maybe
It's
that's
probably,
what
it's
it is.
probably
Yeah.
just edits and that
Yeah.
they're doing
Yeah.
it, but they're doing that purely with practical
That's
effects.
cool.
Right.
Which is
yeah.
actually pretty impressive. Also, his sleight of hand trick with the CD-ROM.
Was that real?
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
There-
he
there-
learned sleight of hand. He
There's
became a
no
magician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is what Tom Cruise does. Like, I'm gonna make a movie, and I want you to make me have to do this weird niche skill, so I can just learn how to do that. You pay me to learn how to ride a horse, bareback turn the other way, right?
Yeah.
So all of that is him doing sleight of hand with it.
That's
And
cool.
it's really good sleight of hand.
It
is
is
really
actually
good.
it's quite good
Because it's
yeah.
all like one shot. They don't cut to like hide the
Well,
like,
and that's
the
a pretty
disc.
big
Yeah.
piece. That's a pretty
Yeah,
big disc.
It's not a small
Yeah.
object, but I also like how it's all played off with him, where he knows he doesn't actually have the right disc, and he's just
Yeah.
talking Kino
Krieger.
Krieger.
He's talking
Wallace will say.
Talking him out.
He's talking him out of it because he knows he's not holding all the cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he just has to look so in control. Like,
when he throws that disc in the trash so hard, I'm like, huh.
right?
It's like, oh no, the knock list.
I'm glad those 90s floppies were so durable.
Well,
they're
so that's
pretty
like
indestructible.
256 meg. It's not even a floppy. It's technically a zip disk or
Right,
something.
yeah.
but
Yeah.
It was like
It's
that weird in
96,
between.
yeah.
I remember zip disks.
I do remember zip
Man, I
disks.
haven't thought about zip disks in a long time. Thank you. You make me feel old.
Because they were like, it was like the clear plastic, and then
Yeah.
it had like the little disc on the inside.
But yeah,
and you had the special drive for it.
I like the gadget play, like, red light, green light, right?
Yeah.
The piece they use to divert the lasers in the air vent.
Oh yeah, that's a cool.
Yeah.
We have kind
Pretty
of
sure
that,
Entrapment used that same idea.
no, they just put Catherine Zeta-Jones in tight pants and made her slither
sure.
through it all. With
Go on.
the camera from a very specific angle the whole time.
But Entrapment was 99. So this is like.
Yeah, so that's like kind of like
4 years ahead.
Yeah, they
of
got
it,
a little bit of probably inspiration from some of those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the best and also worst laser avoidance scene is Ocean's 12.
Ocean's 12.
When he
remember.
does the
Is that in
capoeira through it. He just like straight the French guy just straight. Is it 12 or is it 11? No, it's 12.
It's definitely not.
It's not 11.
Definitely not 11.
It's
Probably
12.
12.
Yeah, it's 12.
I think it's 12.
Where he just straight like man mode goes straight through this big laser
man
grid
mode
that's like moving around. He
what
just
is
does
man
it.
mode?
Well, he just
runs through
He
it.
just does it live. Yeah, he's not like he's doing anything trick to get around it. He's just better than the grid.
I can see the shapes in my mind.
It's the worst representation of lasers ever because they like track along on the ground. It's like, but it needs a receiver at the end to understand if the beam's broken.
So whenever I think of like laser grids like that, I always think about the Resident Evil movie.
Where it like becomes like the square.
Yeah, it comes like the big like death grid that kills Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah,
it's not Samuel L. Jackson.
It's not?
No, he was not in the first Resident Evil movie at all.
Keep that in.
It's been so long since I've seen the film.
It was not Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh,
I'll look up the actual guys. He's a British actor.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
Definitely
don't let Andrew look it up. He's going to come back and tell us it is Samuel L. Jackson.
I know it's not. You look it up, Andrew.
Oh man, but yeah, it doesn't know what it wants to be, right? Because it's
definitely on that weird middle range.
It comes out with the heavy spy work, which I like, but we also have kind of the elements of the action star. With again, we're going to put a helicopter in the channel.
Right.
Which is a little bit much, but
Colin Salmon. No, Salmon. No, Salmon. That's just one. Salmon.
I've seen him in other stuff.
Sure. Yeah,
but it's not Samuel L. Jackson.
It's been a while. I haven't watched
close.
that.
It's called Samuel.
I haven't seen that film since like freshman of high school.
Yeah, it's been
a long
hot
time.
minute for me too. Well, like it's crazy to me too when you think about the action in Mission Impossible because like Speed came out in 94 and I feel like that does a better job of like some stuff where like they didn't use CG right in 94. They were like, what can we do
that's practical with the bus?
Put it on a bus.
Yeah, like but because of it everything like ages a better to some degree as to where with this that was more of a like okay, we can shoot this on a soundstage on a green screen, we can have a fake train, have a fake, chopper that's like flying. So I think this is those growing pains of like we're moving past just practical. What can we do? And it's like you said, apply everything, see what works. Hey, it looks good. And then like later it doesn't age as well,
Yeah, well, because then if you go into like 99 with The Matrix, like you have a lot of cutting edge CGI where like clearly they've learned a little bit from the past couple of years of like, ooh, yeah, we can do this. We can also do this.
There's also a lot of really strong camera work in The Matrix, right? They invented the bullet time sequence, but...
Well, and this movie's a very Brian De Palma film, if you've ever seen his other stuff.
I don't think I've ever seen
like
anything else.
Dutch angles and like...
The Dutch angles
the
really
lighting,
kill me a lot.
The Dutch angles feel really 90s.
It's again, it is
really hard.
Terrible and fantastic example of like what 90s filmmaking was. The lighting is so dramatic in some scenes where like what's her name? Claire is laying on the floor and she's like, in the corner and there's just this light, this strip light on her eyes that's like coming from somewhere that's not anything natural you would ever have,
Yeah.
There's just a lot of choices with like the camera work and the lighting that was again really good if you like 90s filmmaking, but doesn't quite age as well as other stuff,
Although I will give them props for one thing. They shot a lot of this, the opening bits in Prague, which at the time was not a common location for like a Hollywood film to shoot. And it kind of opened it up to the rest of Hollywood of, like that's a good location.
That's probably where a lot of the budget kind of was on location shots.
Well, I think a lot of it really was the stunts.
Yeah.
Especially stuff like the CIA heist. Like they built that whole room. That room doesn't exist naturally.
Are
anywhere.
you sure it doesn't exist
I'm
naturally?
Quite positive.
They want you to think it doesn't exist.
For this one dude who goes in and sits on a computer in a locked vault and does what with it exactly?
He touches the knock list and just makes sure that it's there.
Stares
That's
at the knock
also
list.
a very fun actor for me. I want to shout out whoever that guy is because he plays the like, oh, my stomach, like so well. And then the scene where she like squirts the thing in his coffee, though, I was like, that's really close.
Yeah.
Like you didn't hear like next to your coffee while you're reading the paper.
Well, especially he only gets 3 lines, and they are, oh God, his name when he does the voice identification, and he asks his secretary if she wants anything when he's leaving.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all he gets. But he
and the poor guy gets shipped off to Alaska,
which that's such a classic like action movie thing of like, I want this guy manning a weather station in Siberia. Like, mail him his clothes. I love that line.
Like, it's so sad because it's not his fault at all.
No,
they're just victim blaming. It's just all
like this guy did
nothing.
His job.
Yeah. He alerted everyone.
Yeah. He could have said nothing.
Yeah.
He could have just been like, hey, free knife.
Yep.
Well, like, look at it. Free knife. Sweet. Smells like rat. Looking at Tom Cruise's, like, the movies he did right before this, right? So Days of Thunder is 1990.
Yep.
And that's probably the last action movie he did before this because you got Far and Away.
And it's not really an action film.
No, well, but it's like,
it's more
like
intense
action
scenes.
Yeah. Far and Away, A Few Good Men, The Firm, Interview with the Vampire.
Few Good Men's great.
All good movies, but none of them are him doing stunts.
They're drama roles.
Well, they're not him becoming the action star that we kind of acknowledge him as today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I mean, he's perfected the formula, I think.
He's just a machine.
Yeah.
The more he runs, the more he makes.
Even after that, like he did Jerry Maguire the same year as this. Then he had Eyes Wide Shut, and then Magnolia, and then Mission Impossible 2 in 2000.
And then Vanilla Sky, I think.
Yeah, that was right after.
And Minority Report.
Yeah. So really, it was after MI2 is when he was like, okay.
I think I got,
I can make some money running in places.
But I definitely think, and obviously we'll get to it in the coming weeks, but I really think that this franchise doesn't hit its stride until 3. And then they really find a niche that they can kind of hit where it straddles the spy thriller, action thriller kind of pretty well.
It kind of found its own place in between being a Bond, a Bourne, and a shoot 'em up, right?
Yeah.
They found this kind of happy medium that in a lot of ways the Daniel Craig Bonds kind of struggled to settle into.
Yeah.
When they were trying to kind of, copy the Bourne series because it was so popular.
Yeah, well, because it was so realistic and visceral.
Gritty.
Yeah.
Dark.
Darker, grittier action hero.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, I think like Mission Impossible 2 is the perfect poster child for like what 2000 was. The year 2000 as a year, if it were made into a movie.
It's just a dude doing a reverse wheelie on a motorcycle. Uzi's akimbo with dubs.
Right.
Long Tom Cruise hair.
MI3, even though MI3 isn't one of my favorites of the series, it did mark the shift into like, okay, this is what we're doing for like the rest of it.
I think really I like that film so much, and obviously we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Sure.
Is Philip Seymour Hoffman really carries.
Oh, yeah. Great villain.
The guy kills it in every movie he's in.
Yeah. But yeah, so it'll be fun going over these because a couple of these I've seen quite a bit, and then a couple of these I've only seen maybe once or twice or whatever.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the first Mission Impossible in a long time.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and I don't think I've seen the second Mission Impossible.
I haven't
except
seen
for the
it.
one time I saw it.
Yeah, I'm
really?
Sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure my mom rented it for me and a friend, like early high school.
Yeah,
and we watched it, and that was it.
That just happened.
That's a movie.
Yeah, I've seen the second one a few times. Usually when I'm doing a rewatch.
Big John Woo fan, I see.
I was, but I liked John Woo's older, like The Killer.
Yeah.
Like Hard Boiled, that kind of stuff. And then so to watch him and Face Off even as insane. I'm trying to watch my words as that movie is. I love it for what it is. I think Face Off is a better John Woo American movie than Mission Impossible 2.
Definitely.
We can get into this in the future episodes, but back to MI1. I think it is, again, that poster child for those mid-90s isms where we haven't outgrown the 90s style of lighting yet, the 90s style of CG, the 90s style of like user interfaces, how the internet works. We're still at that weird inflection point that keeps this movie rooted in that time period. But like the bigger issue to me is just the pacing. There's like a couple of connecting scenes that just feel like perfunctory, like, okay, we have to connect these two scenes, so here's the thing that happens.
Here's Max and Tom Cruise having this weird sexual tension.
Yeah, like are they supposed to be flirting? What is happening?
When they like pull the stocking off his head, and he like has this big grin. I'm like, are you like trying to be like Val Kilmer right now? You gonna clack your teeth at her? Like, what's going on?
What's happening here? Yeah,
you know what I am? I'm dangerous.
I don't know. There's moments like that definitely like don't. It's not that it doesn't age well. It just feels out of place and weird.
Does, yeah.
And I wonder if 90s audiences thought that too, or if it's just, like.
So there were a lot of complaints about, obviously for the people who are diehard TV show fans, that just destroyed everything, right?
They tore down everything.
Yeah, they've ruined everything.
I didn't want my expectations subverted.
No. But then for people who are there for an action movie, there was a lot of really slow-paced stuff,
which they didn't get. They didn't get action.
Well, the thing is, the movie was actually praised for its action. It's just there was so much in between the action sequences that if you were there for an action movie, you're trying not to fall asleep, or you were losing the thread of the plot of who crossed who and who's the bad guy.
Well, who's Job and who's Max and
And then of course the flip side is if you were there for the hardcore spy action thriller type movie, well, you have a whole lot of nonsense of a helicopter flying down the tunnel. So,
right? Yeah, so it is kind of trying to straddle both lines.
It managed to basically land in a way where you ticked off the OG fans. You didn't satisfy the action fans, and the spy fans were also a little mad at you. So it's kind of like, what were you trying to do here?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those films where when you go back and you watch it and you look at it and you're like, this spawned a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And it's kind of like, how?
Yeah.
I mean, because we're at movie 7 coming up soon.
Yeah.
And guaranteed at least 8. I think 9. I think is what they're going to land on.
I think that they have.
There's another story after this upcoming film, Dead Reckoning.
Okay,
that's what I've heard.
Okay,
so yeah,
we'll see. And on that note, it does kind of sound like we are winding down for the episode. Before we go, we got to get a shameless shill in here somewhere. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, check out our other episodes at spoilersintendedpodcast.com. While you're there, stop by, click that Discord link, come by and say hi.
Come on by.
Come on by. We'll leave the light on.
Yeah, if you do want to join Discord.
We'll leave the Discord server open for you.
On the Discord server, we have all sorts of fun channels like what we're listening to, what games we're playing, what hobbies we're doing. Not everything's going to be podcast related. We do have spoiler channels for people that are watching like current shows.
Yep.
And, it helps, get the conversation going, seeing, if like there's something that you really want us to.
Some conversations in there lead us to be like, we should review this.
Yeah, we should review that.
Or even give us intro topics.
Or we should not review that.
We do discuss the things that we review. So if you're like listening to this and you're like, I have things to say about Mission Impossible, come on into this Discord.
Leave us an opinion.
Tell us our opinions are terrible. That's fine.
We'd love it.
Yeah. But you could also tell us that our opinions are great on any kind of review.
Yes.
Via iTunes or
anywhere
whatever.
you listen to podcasts that lets you leave a review, leave us a review. It would be fantastic in helping us get more people to discover our podcast.
You could also give us a share to a friend. But the best way to support the show is via Patreon.
Yes. For the low price of just $1 a month, you get access to all of our bonus content, which guarantees you at least one new bonus episode a month, sometimes more, plus access to all of our previous bonus episodes. And we got some crazy stuff in there.
Yep.
It's also worth pointing out that we do have Patreon polls where if you are a supporter, even at the $1 tier, you get to vote on a upcoming review. And that comes out as an exclusive for our patrons.
Timed exclusive.
Yeah, timed
early exclusive.
Early access.
Yeah, early access.
There
that's the term.
Yeah.
Before it makes its way to the main feed. So you can influence what we're watching and what we're talking about.
Make your vote count is what we're trying to say.
All for just $1.
And, again, this is our Mission Rewatchable series. For the next couple weeks, every week on Friday, we're going to be having a new Mission Impossible film that we have reviewed coming out, moving up to Dead Reckoning Part 1, Version 3, Appendix 5.
.exe.
7. Yeah. But on that note, that does sound like all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was definitely intended.